So hi guys! Mayong adlaw. Welcome to NatzMath TV. So in this video, I will be teaching you on how to factor out polynomials using the common monomial factors. So this lesson is for grade 8 students. So I have here some examples for polynomials and we are going to factor out using the common monomial factor. For example, we are given 6x plus 3. So in this example, we have two terms. We have the first term which is 6x and the second term which is 3. So how do we factor out the common monomial factor? So in each of the term, we need to use prime factorization. So the first term is 6x. We need to factor out 6x using prime factorization. When we say prime factorization, we need to factor out using prime numbers. When we say prime numbers, these are numbers which has no other factors except 1. So when we use prime factorization, in factoring 6x, so we can factor out 6x using 3 times 2 times x. So since 3, 2, and x are already a prime number, so these are the prime factors of 6x. That is for the first term. Now let's proceed to the second term. In this case, we have our second term is 3. So second term is 3. When we factor out using prime factorization, we have 3 times 1, since 3 is already a prime number. Then afterwards, the next step is to identify the greatest common factor in each of the terms. So in this case, we have the common factor, we have 3 and 3. So our common monomial factor for this binomial shall be 3. Our common factor is 3 here. So the common factor is 3. So what shall remain inside the parentheses shall be, we have here 2x for the first term. So we write here 2x. We copy plus. And we have 1 for the second term. So the common or the factors of 6x plus 3 are 3 times 2x plus 1. Our common monomial factor is 3 and the remaining factor is 2x plus 1. Now, if we want to check if these factors are correct, we just simply use distributive property, meaning we distribute 3 to the terms inside the parentheses. So we can say 3 times 2x, that will give us 6x. 3 times 1, that will give us 3. So these are the factors of this binomial. So let's proceed to our second example. This is just similar to this example, 6x minus 12. So the same process, we use prime factorization in each of the term. So we have 6x. The prime factors of 6x shall be 3 times 2 times x. And the second term, which is 12, so we write 12. And the prime factors of 12 are 3 times 2 times 2. That is, 3 times 2 is 6, times 2 is 12. Next is to identify the greatest common factor. So we have here 3 and 2. So 3 and 2, that means 3 times 2, which is 6. So our common factor is 6 times. The remaining factor shall be x for the first term, so we write x, copy minus. The remaining factor for the second term is 2, so we write 2. So this is now, or these are now the factors of this binomial 6x minus 12. Our common monomial factor is 6. Again, if you want to check if this answer is correct, we just simply multiply 6 times x, which is 6x. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. Okay, let's proceed to another example. We are given 2x squared plus 8x. Same. Common factor, first term, 2x squared. The common factor, since 2 is already a prime number, so we write 2 times x times x. 2 times x, we have x squared. Then another is, the second term is 8x. So we factor out 8x. The prime factorization of 8x shall be 2 times 2 times 2 times x. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times x is 8x. Now we identify the greatest common factor. So we have here 2 and 2 here, and we have x and x here. So therefore, when we multiply 2x, 2 times x, 2 times x here, that is 2x. So our common monomial factor for this example shall be 2x. Then we multiply. The remaining factor for the first term shall be x, this one. So we write x, we copy plus. Then the remaining factor for the second term shall be 2 times 2, which is 4. So therefore, again, the common monomial factor for this example shall be 2x. And the remaining factor is x plus 4. Then if we want to check, we just simply distribute 2x to the terms inside the parentheses. Okay, next example. We have 10x squared plus 35x. Okay, so first term, 10x squared. Prime factors of 10x squared shall be 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Then we have x times x. For 35, we have 35x equals. The prime factors are, we have 5 times 7 times x. 5 times 7 is 35, and we have the x here, so that's why we have the x here. Then we identify the greatest common factor. So we have 5 and we have the x. So meaning, our common monomial factor for this binomial shall be 5x. We multiply 5 times x, that is 5x. So we write 5x times. So this is our common monomial factor. Our remaining factor for the first term is 2 and x here. So 2 times x is 2x, so we write here 2x. We copy plus. So the remaining factor for the second term is 7, so we have here 7. So 5x is the common factor, then the remaining factor is 2x plus 7. So this is now our factor. Another example, we have a squared b raised to 5 plus a cubed b cubed. Okay, the same. We factor out using prime factorization. Our first term, a squared b raised to 5. So prime factorization, so we can say a times a. A times a, that is a squared. Then we have times b times b times b times b times b. So that is b times b times b times b times b, that gives us b raised to 5. For the second term, we have a cubed, b cubed. So the prime factors are a times a times a, that's for a cubed, times b times b times b, that's for b cubed. Now let's identify the greatest common factor. We have here a times a, and we have here b times b times b. So therefore, we have a times a, that is a squared, b times b times b, that is b cubed. So our common monomial factor shall be a squared times b cubed. Now the remaining factor for the first term, we have b times b. B times b is b squared. We copy plus. The remaining factor for the second term shall be a. So we have here a. So with a squared b cubed as our common monomial factor, our remaining factor shall be b squared plus a. So these are the factors for this binomial. Another example, we have 10x squared y minus 15y squared. So let's do the prime factorization. First term, 10x squared y. So the prime factorization, we have 5 times 2 or 10 times x times y. For the second term, we have 15y squared. Prime factorization shall be 5 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15. Then we have y times y. Y times y, that is y squared. Now let's identify the greatest common factor. We have 5 and also we have the y. So therefore, our common factor shall be 5 times y, which is 5y. So we write 5y. So 5y now is our common monomial factor. So the remaining factor shall be 2x times x. So that is 2 times x, that is 2x squared. 2 times x is 2x, 2x times x is 2x squared. We copy minus. The remaining factor for the second term shall be 3 times y, that is 3y. So therefore, these are now the factors for this binomial using the common monomial factor. Another example, we have 12x cubed y plus 15xy cubed. So the same process. We factor out the common monomial factors. So we have 12x cubed y. Common monomial factor shall be 3 times 2 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. So we have here 12 times x times x times x. That is x cubed times y. For the second term, we have 15xy cubed. So the prime factors are 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15 times the x times y times y times y. So y times y times y will give us y cubed. Now let's identify the greatest common factor. So we have here 3. We have here the x. And we have here the y. So therefore, our common monomial factor shall be 3xy. So we write 3xy. So the remaining factor shall be, for the first term, we have 2 times 2, which is 4. We have x times x, which is x squared. So we have 4x squared. For the first term, we copy plus. For the second term, we have 5 and y squared. So that is 5y squared. So these are now the factors. Now let's proceed to another example. How about if we are given a trinomial? Say for example, 12x squared minus 9x plus 15. So again, we need to factor out using the common monomial factor. The same process, we need to use prime factorization to factor out each of the terms. So we need to do it one by one. So let's start with the first term, which is 12x squared. So prime factorizations, we can have 3 times 2 times 2 times x times x. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12 times x, that is 12x squared. That is for the first term. Let's proceed the second term. We have 9x. So prime factors are, we have 3 times 3 times x. 3 times 3 is 9 times x is 9x. Then last term we have 15. So we can have 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So we identify now the GCF, or the greatest common factor. So we have here 3 common to each of the term and no other common factor except 3. So therefore, our common monomial factor for this trinomial shall be 3. So we write 3 times. The remaining factor, for the first term, we have 2 times 2 times x times x. So that is 4x squared. For the second term, the remaining factor is 3x. So we copy minus. we write 3x. And for the last term, we have plus, the remaining factor is 5. So these are now the factors of this trinomial with a common monomial factor which is 3. Now, next example, we have 25a cubed b squared plus 15a squared b cubed minus 10ab squared. So we do the prime factorization. First term, we have 25a cubed b squared. So prime factors, 5 times 5, that is 25. Then we have times a times a times a, then times b times b. Then for the second term, we have 15a squared b cubed. Prime factors of 15 are 5 times 3, that is 15. Then a squared, we have a times b times b times b. Then for the third, we have 10ab squared. So we have 5 times 2 for 10 times a times b times b. So let us identify the common monomial factor or the GCF. We have 5, which is common in all of the terms. Another is a. Another is b. We have two b's here. So our common monomial factor therefore is 5 times a times b times b. So that is 5ab squared. 5a and the b squared. Then the remaining factor for the first term are 5a squared. So we write here 5a squared. We copy plus. The second term we have 3a and b. So we write 3ab. Then we copy minus. The third term we have 2. So we write 2. So these are now the factors of this trinomial with a common monomial factor 5ab squared. Now again, if we want to check if this answer is correct, we can do distributive property. We just distribute 5ab squared to the terms inside the parentheses. So this one multiplied to the first term, multiplied to the second term, multiplied to the third term. Then let's go to our last example. We have 3n cubed minus 12n squared minus 30n. Okay, let's do prime factorization for the first term, 3n cubed. So we write 3 times n times n times n. First term. Second term, we have 12n squared. So we can write 3 times 2 times 2 times n times n. Last term, 30n, so we can have 30n. So we can have 3 times 5 times 2. 3 times 5 is 15. 15 times 2 is 30. Then times n. So let's identify the GCF or the greatest common factor. So we have here 3 and we also have the n. So therefore, our common monomial factor in each of these three terms are 3n. So we write 3n times. The remaining factor for the first term we have n and n, so that is n squared. We copy minus. So the second term we have 2 times 2, which is 4, and n, so that is 4n. Last term we have 5 times 2, so that is copy minus. 5 times 2 is 10. So these are the factors for this trinomial with a common monomial factor 3n. Again, if we want to check, 3n times n squared, that will give us 3n cubed. 3n times negative 4n, that will give us negative 12n squared. 3n times negative 10, that will give us negative 30n. So that's it. I hope you have learned something from this video. Next video is about factoring the perfect square trinomial. Again, this is a lesson for grade 8 mathematics. So thank you and God bless.